it's funny I didn't bring this up originally because I have had this. It's not an official list, and maybe I should start it. But I've always called this my broken legs list, and it's if I break both my legs, like all the games and movies that I will watch, because like you just have all that time. Like when you're a kid and you get like mono or something, and you're like your mom's like, you better stay on the couch for the next month and play video games, and you're like, do I have to?
Yes, dude. Oh my god. Hello and welcome to another episode of Grass Touchers, where the three of us guys talk about what we're into, the video games we play, the video games we hate, the video games we love. I'm Jake.
I'm Jared. Is that cool?
Yeah, dude, waving the mic back and forth. Yeah. Cool. That's some Dolby freaking surround. Yeah, there you go.
And I'm Greg.
Yes. Gentlemen, what have you been playing lately? Jared, go.
I've been playing Tekken 8, which I've been talking about how it's going to be coming out for like a month now, and it finally came out, and it's rad. It's super cool, and I'm doing the whole king thing. I know everybody who plays Tekken hates that, but I don't care, and you're stupid. Because there are
now, what do you mean the king thing? Is that a character? What is that?
King, yeah, you know King. I mean, he's been in there since the first iteration.
I mean, it rings a bell.
Jaguar head wrestler man.
Oh, yeah. That's like the Tekken person that I think of, actually.
Okay. He's not the face of the franchise necessarily, but I guess you could. I guess he's probably the most recognizable.
That's Ryu, right?
No, dude. Come on.
It's a joke.
Nobody's that uneducated on fighting games, Craig.
Jared's holding back incredible rage right now.
He's seething right now. They can see me punching the air on the stream.
Don't even know. Shut up.
It's the wrong game. No, the people who do that are the people who play like niche anime fighters, like Blaze Blue or something. They're like angry when you don't get their names right. But
that's right.
When doing Tekken 8, I did get I got an RP4 Pro just to try it, just to see if I would like it, and it turns out I do. I like it a lot, and I've been playing a little bit of.
Is that another handheld fella?
It is. It's the newest. I guess you could say it's a flagship offering from Retroid. Not that they really have a ton of different offerings. They kind of stick to the Pocket series, and this is the latest and the greatest, and it's a pocketable GameCube PS2 level playing thing. So it's been cool so far. I've been playing some Fight Night Round 3 on that, replaying the game from my past. And aside from that, I've sort of tapered off of Ark. You get rated only a certain amount of times before you must quit that game. So
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was a good thing.
That was a good thing.
Step back from that one.
For all parts of my life, that was a good thing. Yeah, Greg, what you been up to? Play
I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Talking to Clay last week, reinvigorated my desire to play Baldur's Gate 3, which was incredible. I spent Saturday and Sunday this past week playing Baldur's Gate 3, learning the ins and outs more of that game, and we'll talk about it a little bit when Jake talks about the fact that he finally decided to take the plunge and seems very happy with that decision. But I spent some time figuring out the intricacies of how decisions in that game can negatively impact you or positively impact you. So that was pretty cool. Baldur's Gate 3, Jake and I played PUBG probably twice in the last week, maybe 3 times in the last week.
Yeah, we hit it up a little bit.
We did, and love PUBG. But that's basically it, guys. Work's been super busy. So the definition of a grass toucher, right? I am trying to play games as much as I can, but just hasn't happened that much this week, to be honest with you.
Sometimes as much as you can is like a single digit number of hours, maybe spread over 2 weeks. Like, it just goes up and down.
For sure.
We're big boys. Yeah, dude. So the thing about it is, Baldur's Gate 3 is just really great. It's just
I knew it.
It's so good, dude. I had to me playing PUBG with you the other night was like an olive branch. So I was like, all right, let me cut myself off from Baldur's Gate 3 for a second. Let me hang out with Greg because Baldur's Gate 3 is multiplayer, and I'm gonna mention an idea I have for that later. But I was like, I gotta play a little PUBG. Deg's on, So when we did link up, I was happy to sort of put it down for a second so I could return to it. But I have been making room for no other games since we talked last week because I have I picked up my Steam Deck for a little bit because I was in the middle of something else and I was just sitting down and I was like, all right, let me play something. But I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about what might happen if I do X, Y, or Z. I can't get over how much I don't hate the things in it that I would normally dislike. Clay mentioned this last week, taking something that seems to prove, there's an exception to every rule. Games that have really deeply embedded behind the curtain number games going on sometimes are frustrating to me because I don't like min-maxing numbers too much. In this game, there's a ton of ways to overanalyze or overcritique your build and what you're doing with your character and stuff. But anyway, I guess I might as well launch full on into it. So if I had to pick a number rating, old school sort of Game Informer, new game came out, how do I review this game? Having not even gotten out of Act 1, those of you that have played Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't finished the Goblin Camp. It's like 9.5 out of 10. Super, super, super good. I can only think of a couple of games that I've been more stoked on when I first picked them up. And to piggyback off of things we've already said about this game, I'll tell you that the character creation is perfect because it gives you the right amount of customization and you can do certain things, but there isn't a slider for the width of your left nostril either. And I think that's good because games that do that, I end up going, well, they gave me all these sliders. Let me try each of them and see what happens. And then before I know it, I have some unrecognizable, hideous character.
And then you hit the randomize button because you're like, maybe this will just give me something that I like. And it just might as well be called the Goblin button. It just turns you into the most hideous purple
lizard
demon.
Man with a lizard man with bright red hair and purple highlights. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
So from the jump, the game has great, just the sort of the start menu, sort of sound design and the whole vibe of the whole thing from the very beginning is very, very curated. And it does this thing where the first title screen is all peaceful looking, and then when you hit, it says press any button to continue, it sinks down below the Earth's crust, and then there's this thing where there's a big nasty hellish gate and some guy strung up on the ceiling, and the vibe changes immediately. The intro to the game is wild. I can't believe the way that the cutscenes go into in-game cutscenes, go into gameplay, go into in-game cutscene, go into rendered cutscene. The whole intro sequence for an hour, or at least at the speed that I played it, is a ride. Really, really rad. Greg talked about it in a previous episode. The premise is that you're on a ship. You don't start on the ship. I had a confusion about this until I got eyes on it myself. You, as a character, did exist in the world of Baldur's Gate, and then you got abducted by this ship as it zoomed into the sort of Earth or whatever. It sucks you up, and then you're trapped, and then you're freed, and now you're on the ship, and you're escaping the ship as it's crashing. But it's this what's the
It's very Lovecraftian.
That's the one. Thank you. There's these Lovecraftian, tentacle-laden creatures that are, for all intents and purposes, they're aliens. At least that's the impression. And then as you get down to the world, you find that they are some sort of old god, or at least that's how they're revered on the planet. And there's all these realms and dimensions, and all the mythology sets in like immediately, and you're just sort of learning at what I would say is a fast pace, but like I'm down. So there's a lot to take in, you know, all the lore and story just comes right in, but it's very self-serious. The voice acting is absolutely like beyond reproach good. Even characters that are minor, or characters that are normally not like important in this game, are treated like main characters. Like there's literally no way for you to know when you go and you walk up to a new NPC and talk to them, you have no way of knowing based on how you first interact with them whether they're a future companion, whether they're a mainline freaking story character, or whether they're, you know, dragon fodder and they're about to die in the next scene. Like you have no idea, because every single character is played and treated convincingly. Everybody's got a name. You know, there's no Goblin 1, Goblin 2, Goblin 3. Like everybody has a name and a backstory and a thing going on.
So it's the
I find that really interesting.
It's the anti-anime
It
character
is
introduction thing where they don't like the purple hair and like a giant moon earring. You're like, oh, okay. So he's the main character or something.
There's no like red shirt throwaway characters in this game.
Wow.
There are people that died immediately after you meet them because there's a cutscene about to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen in any given scene based on character portrayal. You just have to watch it unfold. And so here's where I'm really just the reason I say I can't stop thinking about it. I'll give you an example of a couple of things. Number one, I've already found places in the only short distance I've made it through the main quest line and the side quests I've done. I have already found things that Clay said he didn't find, and Greg said he didn't find, and they can tell me about things that I had no idea about. Right. Clay said in the sort of intro start world, he found like some Necronomicon, like Book of the Dead, something or other, and that it ended up being important later, and he just didn't chase down like that story thread. He found this book and then just sort of let it languish in his inventory. And then I haven't even found that book. I have no idea what he's talking about, and I can't even conceive. Yeah. I can't even conceive of how it would play into anything because the story twists around that much. Clay had a character, Lazelle, the green goblin lady, who's like really intense, and I decided for my sort of playthrough here that she's just like too intense for me, and she's really demanding, and she's like really just sort of biting and vicious, and like she's convinced that she's right and she knows exactly what we should do, and she knows exactly what this parasite that's in our head is going to do to us if we don't blah, blah, blah. I'm like, girl, you don't know nothing. This game is tripping. Like, you don't know anything. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of my face. I haven't had her in my party after you get off the ship. And Clay has had her in his party, but sort of like passively. And then I think, Greg, you've had her straight up in your party. And I think that has changed how the story unfolds. Because for me, I just sort of dismissed her to the camp, and then she didn't even stay at the camp. She just left. I finally went to camp, and she wasn't even there. And I was like, I told her to go back to camp, didn't I? And then I find her later in like a totally separate quest, and there's like a dragon that comes up, and I'm like, what is this? I told Clay about it, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you gotta be kidding me. So, and then here's the other thing I want to give you an example of. As soon as you find a side quest, you think, oh, cute, a little side quest, and you think it's going to be like a little 10, 15, 20-minute jaunt, it could very easily turn into an hour-and-a-half long dungeon crawl through an ancient chapel of like dead gods and broken languages that nobody knows anymore, with like, you know, all kind of mysteries and booby traps. And like, this is what happened to me the last time I played, which is last night. I circled back to an area of the map that I remembered I hadn't explored. I'm doing this thing where I'm kind of chasing down a couple of leads before I make a big story decision. And I thought, oh, let me go back over there. I think there was a locked door, and I have somebody that has a whole bunch of perks for picking locks. Let me go use him to pick that lock now that I know how to do that, and I can reliably like roll that. So I go past the roll. First step I take in to this like old chapel. There's a big sarcophagus in the middle, and there's traps everywhere. He keeps finding them when he does like a check, perception check, and he's like, oh, better not step on that. He steps over here. Oh, there's another trap. Oh, there's another trap. And then I tried to open the sarcophagus, and that triggered all the traps in the room, some of which I hadn't even found yet. And the traps on the floor, like, vented this flammable grease up onto the floor, and then the traps I hadn't found yet were like fire-breathing gargoyle heads that ignited all the grease. And
Nice.
so my whole party is incinerated in 2 seconds. And I was like, well, just going to have to reload a save
Cool.
because I saved right before, right when I walked in, I had saved. But what that led to was using a religion check from my character, who's a warlock, to discover, you know, this old dead god that he thought nobody worshipped anymore, and finding super cool items that are like giving me these big like buffs now. And I've had such a good time because as soon as you finish one of these side quests that there's no way to know how long a side quest is going to take. As soon as you come around to another corner, there could very well be another one. And it's like, it just doesn't stop. So you kind of have to pick your battles. If the reason it's a 9.5 out of 10 is because, like, how do you finish this game, dude? How do I decide what I even want to do?
Yeah.
Because I got to go over here. I got to go over here. I got to go over here. And if you're not loving it, if you're not enthralled and charmed by just sort of the whole thing, then it would be very easy to throw up your hands and go, whoa, this is too much, right? But if you, like me, you know, want to just sort of turn off the lights and stay up late and just jump headfirst into the deep end of this like D&D masterpiece, it is like not to be missed. It is so cool. I've really enjoyed it, and I will probably play more very soon. I don't know how much I'll have, you know, during the week or whatever, but given the chance, I'll be booting that bad boy right up. So that's the Jake take on that one.
Nice.
It's been extremely good. Hey, that brings us to back to Jared. Let me hear this Tekken 8 stuff, because I know you're a fighting game guy within reason anyway.
Yeah.
I've had a storied past with fighting games. Tekken's not like my main one. Soul Calibur is my main one. How does Tekken 8 stack up to like previous offerings? Where are we at as Tekken? If you're a Tekken fan, how's it being received? Are we digging it?
I think it's being received well by the public, and I would say I'm really enjoying it. I think it's the latest one, so it's the best looking one. It is like, actually, it's a real spectacle. I have a pretty big TV, and that helps, but even still, like, just the way the players fill the screen and particle effects, and if we're even using that term anymore, and it just is really crisp, and it looks awesome. And it's also Tekken, like kind of like Dead or Alive. It's one of those games where you can get on and just smash a bunch of buttons and think that you're awesome. The game makes it really easy to do cool stuff without really having, without having requisite knowledge.
That's so huge in fighting games because they can have such a high barrier to entry. Like, you absolutely get thrown around, and you have to pick like one character at a time and do all this learning. And it's like, man,
right. But I've been playing mostly ranked, and I've been playing as King, and I've played as him for the past few iterations. I mean, I've been playing this game since I was a child. Tekken 2 was a staple, and then Tekken 3 was a must, and it kind of went on from there. But I'm really enjoying it. Lives up to the hype, and it lives up to the really long development period that it had. So, yeah.
Nice to have a game come out and run well and be great on day one, huh?
It really
so it had some delays though, is that right?
No,
or it
not
just had a
necessarily
long
delays.
time?
It just Tekken 7 was just it was the main line for so long. It had just well outlived its prime, and it was definitely time. But
Gotcha. Nice, dude. That's great. I was looking at the character roster from Tekken 7. I was able to find that one before I could find Tekken 8. And I was looking at like characters that I recognize and maybe would have played as. I remember a couple really specifically. Eddie. I remember Eddie being like really, really tricky to play against, I think. I think I played as Heihachi, maybe?
Sure.
Does that sound right?
So
I feel like maybe that was it.
Controversially to some, Heihachi is not in this game at launch.
Oh, he's not in 8. Okay.
Which is crazy because, I mean, he's one of the main guys and has plenty of people who main him. Eddie also is not at launch, but he's been announced as the first DLC character so that Bamco can make a lot of money.
Yeah,
People are
dude.
gonna
So it'll be.
buy this.
I get the impression that 7, they kind of kept feeding things into Tekken 7 games as a service style, right? Like kind of keep it alive for a while.
They did, and they have the Tekken Pro Tour, which is the pro scene that kind of legitimizes the state of the game. I think.
Oh, like esports type stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And which is great. I think that's great. They back their product with a lot of money and they create buzz around it, even though it's not brand new. Because no matter where the game is in time, people are going to continue to like be at a high level and be able to compete at a high level. It's a lot of fun. So we're scrolling here, and there's some characters from Tekken 7 that I just really hope they don't show up again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let's hear it. What are the Garbo ones?
Well, the ones that don't belong, Negan from Walking Dead never belonged. I don't know why he was in there. I don't like Noctis. He was freaking annoying. He's from Final Fantasy. These guest characters that just I don't get the inclusion.
Yeah.
Akuma is in the game from Street Fighter. That one's neither here nor there.
Is that the bear?
No, Akuma.
Oh, okay.
Right there at the top left.
Okay.
Just some guys that in my opinion don't fit in the game.
Yeah.
They have projectiles and things like that. And in the game they've got more projectiles in Tekken 8, so I guess it's become kind of a normalized thing, but I don't know.
It depends on what you're into, right? Like
Yeah.
to my mind, one of the reasons I like Soul Calibur is every character has extremely diverse sets of like pros and cons and strategies and how far their weapon can reach, generally speaking. And like, yeah, combos are a thing, but I remember Soul Calibur being interesting because it's a weapons based fighting game, right? Whether it's nunchucks or daggers or a sword or a staff or whatever, and it creates a fighting style that is more than just like, instead of this person specializes in this form of martial arts, right? It's about this weapon thing. Whereas Tekken, to its credit, does a lot with just fists and feet and like, it's a real brawler.
It is.
So a lot of what you're doing is up close and personal and combos and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of combos, a lot of launches and air combos and
Now, this is one of those games where when you get to the edge of the map, there's like an invisible wall and you can like keep people sort of like on that, right? Can you sort of juggle them up against the wall in the air like that?
Well, it depends on the stage because there are wall breaks.
Okay.
And you can do ground breaks, go through the ground, and the stage kind of evolves, and it
shows what I know. Okay.
But no, that's definitely a part of the game, and like if you don't know your specific combo routes for those specific scenarios, then you'll lose out on optimal damage. But would
you say that map knowledge becomes a thing? Like you need to know what things you can do on that map?
I think the closer you get to a higher level of playing, definitely. But even without that, the game can kind of be played predictably.
Dude, they got Kung Fu Panda in Tekken.
They've got Kung Fu Panda. They have these are some of the characters that were guests that I was excited they had. They have Buzz Lightyear. They have the Tick. Do you remember the show from the Tick?
Yes, I
cartoon?
do remember
Yeah,
the Tick,
yeah.
actually.
He's on
I really
there.
do.
And they have Skeeter from My Cousin Skeeter, who for a long time people were not happy because he was top tier. He was totally broken. He had electrics, which if you play Tekken, that was very confusing. But yeah.
Jokes aside, can we figure out why so many fighting games have a character named Yoshimitsu? Can we figure that out?
I think they're all Bamco games, if I'm not mistaken, because I think even Soul Calibur is.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like, who is Yoshimitsu and why does he show up in so many different like?
Is Yoshimitsu the guy in Tekken that's got like the sword in like Tekken Tag Tournament? He like kind of looks like a samurai sort of deal.
Yeah, he's a freaky character because he's got all these weird moves. He can teleport and he can like do harakiri and kill himself, and he can like helicopter his sword in the air and like fly around. He's just got all these. He's like a
that's
really crazy, quirky character.
Yeah, in Soul Calibur, he is a pretty wild character. Soul Calibur 5, when it came out, I had one of my buddies over that is like really good at fighting games. He plays Skullgirls and Blaze Blue and like all these fighting games I know nothing about. And he also beats me at Super Smash Brothers too. But he was like, "Yeah, dude, Soul Calibur came out. Did you get it? Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna come over and check it out. All right, cool." And I beat him into the ground in Soul Calibur, and he was like, "Yo, you didn't tell me you were into fighting games." I'm like, "I'm not. I'm into this one. This is the only one." Yeah. I remember my favorite fighting game character is Raphael in not to be confused with the Ninja Turtle. He has a rapier. He's like a fencing guy.
Right.
It's pretty radical, but
yeah, those are great games.
Well, cool, man. I'm glad. I'm always happy to hear. I'm vicariously through you enjoying Tekken 8 because cool. I know that when I have a franchise that a new iteration came out, if it sucks, it's like a huge bummer because it's like, all right, I guess I'll wait 4 years till the next one comes out, see if it sucks or not.
Right.
So that's good that it's been a good one.
It's a good one, and that's a Jared guarantee.
Gary, you're gonna like the way you punch. I guarantee it.
You're gonna like the way, yeah.
All right, so before the pod tonight, we were talking about top 10 lists, top 5 lists, things that just kind of random things to talk about in terms of favorite games, favorite categories of games, and we thought it would be really fun to talk about the one that got away. Or as Jared so aptly put it, Backlog Bummers. So
sound like you said backlog, dude.
No. Although that's a different podcast.
Oh.
But games that you started and enjoyed, but for whatever reason did not finish. Maybe. You began your transition to become a grass toucher, and you have, you started to have a family and spouse and children responsibilities, or maybe something came up in your life, or you found a different game that you liked also, or for whatever reason you did not finish that game. And I know that for me personally, I can think of several. But
yeah, kick it off.
Kind of the game that, and I'll just give one. The game that I thought I had an amazing time with, that I never quite finished, is a game called Infamous, and that game is a 3D platformer. I'll call it a platformer. Kind of plays almost like Spider-Man 2, almost like a.
It's Rocksteady, right?
I believe so, right? And so in that game, you get these powers, these electricity powers, right? And it's like a platformer, and you can kind of like rail grind, like skateboard style, on metal rails using your electricity powers, and you can, electrocute people, and you kind of have all these different powers based off of your electricity superpower, right, so to speak. Mm. And I had a blast. I think that was a PS3 game. I think it was PlayStation 3. And I had a blast playing that game. It was so much fun. Every second I enjoyed that game. And I remember that I stopped playing it because we went to, as one would do when you're in high school or whatever, we went to like family vacation to the beach, and I could not take my PlayStation 3. And so I stopped playing it for a week while we were on vacation, and I came back, and maybe I went off to college or whatever happened, right? But,
yeah, you just go do something else, right?
Yeah, but I stopped playing that game, and I've thought for years, like, man, I'd love to go back and play that game, or maybe it'll get remastered. I know they've had several sequels since then that are probably better, but man, Infamous, that was a great game. I enjoyed every second I played. So that kind of got me thinking about that.
Kind of when you have a game that you latch onto from the jump, but for some reason or another you break the streak that you had of like getting on each night or each afternoon after school, or you sort of break that cycle of like, this is my game I'm playing right now. And when that cycle gets broken, it would have to be extremely good for it to call you back after a break of some kind. And for me, I think I would go with, I think I've narrowed it down to 2 anyway. I don't know. There's quite a few because my Steam library is way too big. I have a few. Atomic Heart. I've talked about it before. I tried to run it on the Steam Deck, and unfortunately on the Steam Deck, my joke was that it's Atomic Fart, dude.
Great joke. Classic.
Yeah, let's give it up. Yeah. Atomic Heart is a really interesting game. It had a incredible trailer that first came out. I think like 2 years before it actually launched, this trailer just sort of floated up out of nowhere on YouTube, and everyone was like, "Whoa, who is this developer? What is going on? This looks incredible!" And it was this like retro futuristic alternate history timeline thing. And when I first booted it up, I bought it as soon as it came out full price. I was like, "This game is for me. I love it," and I do love it. I keep finding other things to do. And when it first came out, I played it for the first maybe 2 or 3 hours of the campaign, and it's short version of a description of the game would be BioShock in Russia. And it's like, you can do subtitles or dubs, and you can have everything be as Soviet USSR as you want. The premise being you are some sort of secret agent cyborg thing working for Russia as a superpower, and the USSR has like dominated the world because of an incredible robot technology that it developed. But that robot technology goes horribly wrong, and you're there the day that everything goes wrong. And so you start off in this like utopian, incredible AI everything, automated everything world. The design language of which is just incredible, really consistent across the universe. A lot of world building. And then when it all goes horribly wrong, it's just action packed, freaking cool, and it's sort of dark humor, tongue in cheek, violence. Really cool game that I hope to come back to at some point. I couldn't even tell you what derailed me from it. I don't know if it was when we got back into Siege and I just wanted. I would rather attempt to be competitive as a grass toucher with my bow, or what. The other one, you guys ever play Control?
No.
It was in the same universe, turns out, as Alan Wake. If you've played the Alan Wake games,
Right.
And Control from Remedy. Remedy Entertainment, I believe, is the name of the studio. Control is like on paper a perfect game for me because it's a sci-fi romp with like weird mind control powers and like sort of Inception, like am I dreaming right now, like brain break sequences. It's sort of a shooter, but like the shooting's not important to the game. You get superpowers, and it's this like basically a drawn out episode of Black Mirror or something, very Twilight Zone sort of like wacky stuff going on. And it was really engaging. It says here on Steam I've got 2.1 hours and I dropped it. And I remember getting that one when I had first built this PC. And I was like, I got a 3070, I'm going to download like any game that's on sale that has a high graphics requirement is for me right now, because I want to put this thing through its paces. And that was one of them. I want to return to Control. As far as multiplayer, Jared, you remember when we played Due Process, the like procedurally generated sort of pixel? Yeah, that game was so cool. I think we did 3 or 4 nights of trying to crack into that. It had a really hardcore PvP scene. I remember it being hard.
Yeah.
But I liked the idea of it, and if I had a crew, if honestly it would take more than 3 of us, I feel like, because it was 5-on-5 maybe. That was a really interesting game conceptually, procedurally generated FPS. There is no one map. You don't need map knowledge. You need teamwork. And strategy. And it was, I think, one of the only games that I can think of to do that well.
I wonder where that's at in the development cycle, because if it's heavily
That's a great question.
enhanced, I would consider jumping back in there, because that was a fun and unique experience.
And it was cheap. It was like $10, $15 or something at the time.
Right.
I remember it being just so like, it's very easy to feel off balance and caught off guard because every map plays slightly different because of the procedurally generated bits. It says here in the on the like Steam page, October 28th of this past year, 2023, they were putting out like a limited time mode and a big content update. So I don't know how many people play it sort of concurrently right now, but it looks like it's still chugging along to some degree.
That deserves more attention. That game was fun and really unique in what it did. I had fun with that. Yeah.
How about you, Jared? You got any that got away on you that you would want to come back to at some point?
I got tons. I got honestly
It's
so
tough.
many that in recent years, and when I say recent years, I guess I mean like for like the past 10 years, I've been pretty much focused in on like competitive online PvP stuff.
Right.
Halo 2, Halo 3, Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, just like online trying to be better than people all the time. That's always been kind of my thing. But I think the single player experiences that have enticed me and made me kind of wistful about not being able to go back to are the Yakuza series.
Oh yeah,
Dude, I always hear great things about those games, and I've yet to touch a single one.
They're a blast. They're fun. They're funny. They're when they're cool. They're cool. You know, the voice acting and a lot of the facial designs are like they tell a good story with what they've done design wise in that game, and it is one. But there's so many of them, and I feel like they come out with a new one every 3 months. I'm like, wait a minute. This is a mainline game. They're like, yeah, this is the hottest, newest one. It's AAA game. It's fully fleshed out. People are loving it, and I'm like, I haven't played the past 9 of these games. I feel like all the time, but
there's a podcast I listened to that covered the most recent one, and they were just singing its praises. It's like, I can't believe they made this game. It's got all the thing about those is they tend to have a lot of mini games like tucked into them, and you can get stuck in one of those for several hours and forget to play like the rest of the game. Right. I find them really interesting conceptually. I've just yet to pick one up.
Yeah, they're feature packed and they're fun. They've switched the combat system with the past few. The Like a Dragon games I know are like semi turn based, but still a great time. It's funny I didn't bring this up originally because I have had this. It's not an official list, and maybe I should start it. But I've always called this my broken legs list, and it's if I break both my legs, like all the games and movies that I will watch, because like you just have all that time. Like when you're a kid and you get like mono or something, and you're like your mom's like, you better stay on the couch for the next month and play video games, and you're like, do I have to? You know.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh.
And you're
the
all
stay home
to.
sick days, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Especially if you're I remember distinctly like 6th grade, kind of middle school, early high school, like I can't drive anywhere, so nobody asked me to do anything other than chill at the house if I'm sick. But I'm also old enough to chill at the house if I'm sick. Like nobody has to stay home with me.
Right.
Those times where you can just like, do I still have a fever? Oh, thank God I still have a fever. Yeah,
Right,
Mom, I
right.
don't feel very good.
Right.
You have
go
like a
today.
streak. And you might have the flu and you might be crapping your brains out all day, but when you are on the couch, you're on the freaking couch doing whatever you want.
Dude,
you know, that's a good one. I've said something similar to my wife when I said, honey, you know, like in the nursing home one day, I'm just going to be playing my backlog like until I die, right?
The nursing home list,
She's like, you better not. And I said, I can't be held accountable for what I do in my late 80s, honey. I'm just telling you. I'm going to have some kind of old man, like, assistive controller, and I'm going to be like, man, I can't believe this came out in 2012. This was actually really great, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah.
You know what else I almost said is XCOM. I think you and Wiley played those XCOM games.
Wiley cannot beat XCOM 2, dude. Wiley's good at video games, and he's a completionist when he plays them. He really progresses quickly. That's one of the games that he's tried a few times, and he just cannot get through.
I've tried. When you first hipped me to that game, I played it like pretty hardcore for a while. But it was easy for me to put down after a certain point, and it was this one, which I will stream.
Dude, when you miss a shot from your shotgun while the gun is literally this. It's like
I got you.
Eat my
I got you. My gun is clipping up his nostrils, dude.
Yes.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. And I'm only going to do 4 to 6 damage. I've got a 52% hit chance.
Yeah.
And I remember I thought, okay, come on, 52. You know, I rolled the dice and I got burned. I missed.
Oh,
and I was like, you guys are kidding me.
Yeah.
Not to mention the permadeath, you know, you find a character you like.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's tough,
you know,
dude.
yeah.
That is tough.
That was the easy one to put down at a certain point, because I was like, all right, there's no way, you know, it almost plays like a roguelike where you're just beholden to the stats. There's a bunch of games down here, man, that I was just like,
Elite Dangerous. That's one for me that I remember you told me about that, and I was like, that sounds cool.
Bro.
And I picked it up, and I was like, this game is awesome. But I was like, it was just too big for me. It was like too big. I was like, if I can't dedicate the appropriate amount of time. And it also looks like they've dropped like massive content updates, but nobody talks about this game. They're all too busy complaining about people's
exactly
No Man's Sky or whatever.
Yeah, so I remember Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky came out around the same time, and there was this big, like, it was like the console wars all over again, you know? I was like, you guys, shut the up. You sound so right now. I liked Elite Dangerous. I played it with my friend Alex. We played Elite Dangerous and loved it for, like, I don't know, 10 hours, and then we realized that it was, at least in its form at that time, this like hopeless grind where all you're doing is getting money and getting another ship and getting money and getting another ship, and like what's the point? The PvP scene, the thing about space games, and I can say this about Star Citizen too, the thing about the PvP scene is when you think you're good enough, or you think you've got the right ship, or you've been reading the Reddit and you're like following some meta on your ship build, there's some guy who makes like, you know, $200,000 working from home designing JavaScript nonsense, and he has a actual cockpit in his garage, and he's gonna waste you every time. It's like those racing sims, you know, like the space sim like community. There's like 1% of the population that plays it has a monopoly on you know, success in this. Great segment, by the way, Greg. I could have talked about this all day. Oh my god, Hitman. There's a bunch of Hitman games that I should have played. Like, oh man, there's so many good games. Well, gents, that brings us to what I've been looking forward to the most. We have some community interaction to attend to. We got to open up the mailbag. A listener response. Classic Shaddick or Shaddick.
Let me reach into the mailbag real quick. I pulled it out.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter.
Wonder who is from.
Beep.
Oh, it's a jury summons. Ow. Beep. Wait, let me see if I can. Is this gonna pick it? I wonder if this will pick it up, dude.
It's like like Red Pill Blues Clues, where he opens up the mail and it's like he owes alimony and child
Red
support
Pill
or something.
Steve, and he's like, yeah, it's that again, coming at me, having with my neighbor, and is that not picking up?
Not
Not
really,
on Discord.
Dang it,
I'm
dude.
sure I'll hit it.
So
looking at the yeah, probably gonna have to fix it with that. Opening up the mailbag this week, listener response. Love this, by the way. Hope everybody chips in like this. We asked, have you checked out Power World? What do you think of it? And this user said, no, not really, but I've got a couple of other questions. What do you guys think of VR? And have you ever heard of Lethal Company? So let's start with Lethal Company. I'm not going to lie. We had no idea about this game because at first brush, it looks like it's just some kind of popular on Twitch, like, you know, game right now. And so looking at the kind of Steam page, you know, synopsis here, co-op horror about scavenging at abandoned moons to sell scrap to the capital C company. On the one hand, it's totally my thing if it's sort of sci-fi at all, you know. I'll try anything once if it's sci-fi, basically. But I also think that, generally speaking, horror games are not really my thing. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Would you ever give it a shot? Like, what do we know about this? Or what do we know about this genre?
I don't get into the genre very much. I don't like horror games. I don't like the horror genre. It's, you know, as it pertains to any medium, to be completely honest with you. But
Word.
yeah, this looks like one of those games that is fun if you've got a couple pals and you guys are goofing around and you know, you're really enjoying more how the game is playing off of your friends more than it's just playing off to you directly, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I think.
Yeah, and I would try it, but I think I'll probably end up watching some people play it first to see what it's all about. I'll probably bully one of you guys into buying it and then watching you stream it.
Yeah.
I think I can count on one hand the number of horror games I have like enjoyed and recommended to someone. The first one was Fear, the original Fear on the Xbox 360. Playing that in my room at night, lights off, like just let myself be engrossed by this terrifying, you know, sci-fi horror shooter. Mm-hmm. Incredible game. Dead Space is another one. If I was going to play a horror game like that wasn't a shooter, I remember picking up Amnesia: The Dark Descent. That was really popular at one time when it first came out. I was in college and this girl, she was like, we should play this game. I was like, yeah, okay. And then it was actually really great. I was like, get out of my room. This is great.
That's the movie trying to pull. I'm scared. I'm scared.
I'm so scared.
Can you hold me?
What about you, Greg? Do you dig this scary crap? What do you think, man?
It depends on the game. Fear.
Right.
Fear is great. I love Fear. The game and the feeling.
It took a turn.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
There was the whole Slender Man thing that came out a few years ago. Obviously, like the whole Slender Man meme, and then there was a game that came out which was apparently like really terrifying. And I've watched videos of people playing that game, and it's of course terrifying. But yeah, it's not my thing. The videos that I've seen of people playing Lethal Company, I don't know. I just don't want to turn a corner and there's like a, Pyramid Head, Silent Hill 2 monstrosity staring me down.
Right.
Like it's just not my thing, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But I do take Jared's point that I imagine that if the three of us were to try the game, we'd probably like it. We probably would think it's fun, but I think mostly because it's the three of us cutting up together playing the game,
Yes,
not
right.
the game itself, right?
And we've said this before. It's about the hang. I could play almost anything, and if it's going to be a good hang, it's because of the people that I'm hanging with. I think that's been the magic, the glue that has kept us together when we play games like Siege or PUBG or what was that extraction shooter that you and I tried that one time, Greg?
Frontier.
Yeah, Frontier something.
The last cycle Frontier.
The last cycle. I remember that being a good time. Like
Or
I could pick up
the
any
cycle.
The cycle Frontier.
I was gonna say the last cycle. It sounds like menopause, dude. Just saying. Am I right, fellas?
There you go. There's just sort of a truism there that is it the game or is it you and your friends are friends? If you pick up a given game and you have a good time, good for you. That's good. That means you have a rockin' Discord server and you're gonna have a blast no matter what. Now VR though, oh my gosh, I have lots of thoughts on VR. I'll try to keep it brief, but the short version is I have purposefully held off on getting a VR headset, even though I desperately want one, because there's so many games that come out, whether it's a proof of concept sort of game like at the beginning of the VR craze, or games that are coming out now. And now that it's sort of an established platform, it's pretty niche still, but it's established. There's so many games that I want to play, but I can't justify the cash. You know what I mean? And the idea of playing while sitting at my PC with a headset on has a certain allure, because there's certain games I really want to do that with, like flight sims and space sims and games that are meant for that. And I kind of like the ones that you need to clear out some space in your room to enjoy. There was a game that was was it Bone something? Boneyard? Bone something? I'm going to sound stupid. Bone. I'm typing into Steam. Bone.
Wow, I wonder what's going to pop up here.
Probably Spider-Man.
Bone VR.
But so the first four seem to be somewhat relevant to my query. No, it's called Boneworks and also Bone Lab. I think they're sort of similar. They are both VR games where you do rad stuff in VR. Knocking over skeletons with baseball bats with nails all split through them. And the idea of having a VR headset and reloading a gun and not just sort of the tactile part of that, I think would be very, very cool. I'm sure that I would like VR. I just don't have a headset. So, what about you guys? Any strong thoughts on VR?
No, to me it's like a gimmick. I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but I'm just not that interested. I do have a funny VR story that's very, very brief, but I was at a local watering hole one time about 5 years ago, and there were these women that were in front of the bar. We'll call it a bar. And
that's what it was.
Because that's what it was. And they had these VR headsets for this boxing game, and they were like, "Oh, you should come play this boxing game. It's $40 every time you play, and you play for 7 minutes. It was like a horrific deal, right? And they put a headset on me and my buddy, and you just like boxed each other in VR. And I actually remember thinking it was really fun, like in the moment. It was fun, but it's just, I don't know. To me, the technology is just not there yet. It's, we're not quite at Ready Player One status as far as the VR thing goes. And, when we get there, of course, I'll be all about it, when the Oculus, 47 comes out, when the technology finally is there to where it feels real, and we have a haptic, running board we can move back on, or move back and forth on, and actually, experience things as they would be in real life. I think I'd probably, of course, be all about it. But at the time,
and you can see some of those really hardcore implementations of VR do exist in extremely niche settings. Like you could go to some hipster freaking part of Austin, Texas, and find like, a VR bar that's $120 a pop or something. Like there's certain places you can go, and they do have running boards, and they do have, the best of the best VR headsets, but not for like home use yet. You know what I mean? Like there's not a headset that is the price point and the performance and the game library that like I would be totally sold out on yet. So the only VR experience that I can say I stuck with for a little while there was I was at a family hang, and my little cousin brought his I think it was the Oculus 2, so not tied into a console of any kind, just like the headset, and the graphics on it were fine. And I think it was 1 or 2 iterations before the current one, the Meta Quest 3 I think is out now. Anyway, I played Beat Saber on it. It was super cool. I love rhythm games. It was really hard.
I bet you looked really cool playing it too.
Well, here's the thing. So you look like a big dumb idiot. Yeah. That's right. And it's like, nobody look at me. I'm shutting the door. Shut up. I'll come out when I'm done, and I'll give it back to you, Tyler. It was my cousin's name, Tyler. And this is the other thing. Tyler had been playing it for, I kid you not, like 2 hours straight before he handed it to me. And Tyler, I love you, buddy. If you ever listen to my podcast, I apologize for what I'm about to say. He was so sweaty, dude.
Yeah,
he was in the back room of my grandma's house, just tearing it up, Beat Saber, And so he's like, "Hey, man, you want to try Beat Saber?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I really do. Got a paper towel?" Like, well, god dang, this headset was just the like part on my forehead was like
when you're a kid and you go swimming for the second time that day.
Yeah,
and you slip on your trunks, and they're like wet and just freezing cold. Yeah, dude.
That is exactly what it was like. So yeah, other than that part of it being not ideal, VR is cool, no doubt.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of games out there that I sort of log away. They're on the nursing home collection. One day I'll get around to them.
Yeah.
But, Jared, you ever frick with VR at all, dude?
Yeah, I played a little bit. My little cousin had it and lent it to my...
What is it with little cousins in VR, dude? Wow.
I don't know. They're at the right age, right? They're us when we were playing, when we were like getting Xbox and being like, check this out, look how realistic it is to our uncles and stuff. And they're like, that's great.
Yeah.
I played it. It is cool. It's much cooler, and it's much more immersive than I thought. I thought I was going to be kind of above it and like, this isn't going to like fool me almost. And like you get it on, you're like, whoa, like you're, what's going on? What happened? But it's a good time. It's not something that I would buy unless I was really balling and I was like, we could have this, and like when we have people over, we can like beta them into submission by being like, hey, you want to check out our VR? And just bringing them into a room and just embarrassing them.
Yeah. I do like the ones where, I don't know how hard this is set up because I haven't looked into it at all, but where you can see whatever they're seeing on your TV, like in the same room. So it's exactly that, where everybody sits around in a circle and you take turns doing the thing. And, there's people that get super freaked out by it. There's people that accidentally throw controllers at TVs. There's, all kinds of hijinks that, I would love that, to have a group of friends, but it's expensive, and I don't, I don't know about you guys. I get a little protective of my like stuff, you know. My brother was surprised one day when he came over and visited. I was like, "Hey man, I just got this game. You want to sit down on my computer and like play it for a little while? You know, I know you got to go soon, but like, you want to play this game on my PC?" And he was like, "Can I really?" You know, because you know, if it's an expensive piece of tech and you're a tech guy and you don't, you know, sort of swapping it around is
right.
sketchy. It's mostly because you don't want them to feel bad if they break it.
Right.
But
yeah,
anyway,
I'd say it's not quite
day.
there yet for me.
Yeah,
same as Greg probably.
Word.
But cool.
Well,
still very cool.
One day between the three of us, maybe one of us will get one day.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of this illustrious, beautiful show. We are so happy to be doing it, and we really appreciate you guys listening. If you'd like to interact with us, you can check us out here on Spotify. There's ways to interact there, and as well on Instagram at 3 Grass Touchers, not 3 touchers. I've made that mistake. Don't even think about it.
It's a different guy. It's not me.
Different guy altogether. You don't want to check it out. It's very scary. You wouldn't imagine how many. You think here's a guy who probably touches 3 Let me tell you right now, he doesn't. It's a man with 3 I don't want to spoil it for you, but that's what's going on over there. So don't even bother with it, kids. Stay in school. Okay, you don't want to end up like me.
Keep your grades up.
That's why I'm here today at Henderson Elementary talking to you kids today, because of the dangers of touching of 3 touches. You don't want to check it out. No, we really do appreciate you guys, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Jake, you want to take it away?
That's right. Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated, especially the Q&A bits. If you want to have your ideas or questions shouted out here on the podcast, please submit them. And until next time, don't forget, get out there and touch some grass.